want to do a little follow-up to this question. Leading the people to encounter Christ, do you have any challenges?
Definitely. There are many definite, very specific challenges. One, human nature itself. Man, since the fall, and in spite also of the redemption that was brought by Christ, is still somehow hesitant to open himself entirely to the gospel message. You would remember Pope St. John Paul II beginning his ministry by telling all Christians and all humanity, do not be afraid. In fact, throw open the doors to Christ. And Pope Benedict began his own ministry. Pope Benedict XVI began his own ministry by saying, do not be afraid to open yourself to Christ. Christ does not take away anything from you. He enriches you. But there is always this hesitation on the part of human beings when it comes to giving themselves entirely to God so that God will really bring out the best in us. So that's the primary challenge. Secondly, you have the challenge of our culture. Our culture that over years, centuries, had been permeated by values that come from another religion, the Igbo traditional religion. The Igbo traditional religion that is in many points at variance with the Christian message. And at those points where it is at variance with the Christian message, then it's a challenge for the Christians to open up to the gospel message in order to be transformed. It is a constant problem that our people find it difficult to distinguish between what is purely cultural and what is religious in the context in which they are living. Another challenge is ignorance of the doctrine, ignorance of the faith. We need consistent and thoroughgoing faith formation or formation in the faith. Which faith? The Catholic faith. The Catholic faith that is no longer to be taken for granted as understood by Catholics in our present context. Years back, we had only 3 Christian movements under the large umbrella of Pentecostalism. This is not helping matters because, let it be said clearly, many of these people are inspired, but they are using their inspired gifts and inspiration often to create more confusion than harmony within the body of Christ. But also, some are pure business ventures that are exploiting the susceptibilities and gullibility of our people to sell to them what they want to hear rather than what the gospel really requires of them, especially in moments of crisis and in moments of economic depression. So within this context, you have a real challenge of presenting the pure gospel message for the people to accept it not just as a solution to immediate problems, but as a redemption of the entire person. The problem is that so long as we are attacking immediate problems of human beings, addressing immediate problems of human beings, we are not addressing the root cause of those problems, which is sinful human nature. Redemption of man is the only thing capable of removing the things that produce the problems that some of these other religious movements are addressing. So it's a challenge. And finally, you have other material challenges. For instance, limited resources, human, economic resources. Our diocese, as I said, is a fast-growing diocese, and we don't have enough trained manpower personnel to respond to the challenges coming from the vast areas of our pastoral engagement. There aren't enough priests. Even though we have grown from 47 to 270, we still have so many areas where it is difficult for the people to reach the priest because he is living far away from them. You see, have so many areas of pastoral engagement where we cannot give priests full-time attention because they have to do other things besides. Material resources, money. You know, ours is a largely rural diocese. Nsukka, which is the only urban center in the diocese, is not anything that one could call an industrial area or city. It's not a state capital. It does not have industries. It doesn't have a very big market. It has rural markets. And the income of the people is on the low side. Many are low-grade civil servants. Others are farmers who can't mass produce because there are no markets where they can sell those products. And so the financial remuneration of the people is so limited that they cannot give so much to the church, as generous as they may be. So this has contributed to, do I name some? Our cathedral has become a symbol of our own challenge because we don't have enough money to complete the cathedral as designed. Our schools and seminaries, for instance, we don't yet have a spiritual year seminary. Our minor seminary is long overdue for a separation. Because if we had a separate section for the junior secondary school and a separate section for the senior secondary school, it would help in the maturity of the students. Because by the time they are between their JSS1 and JSS3, they have experienced different levels of responsibility, and the number is also smaller. By the time they come to JSS1, they have already certain level of maturity. When they are all together, it takes them 6 years before they experience certain level of responsibility. If we had enough money, we would build another small minor seminary elsewhere. And our hospitals need to be upgraded structurally, administratively. These things cost money. So, and of course, the number of seminarians we need money to maintain them. We have over 200 senior seminarians, and training them costs money. So financially, we have challenges. Humanly, we have challenges. Pastorally, we have challenges. And of course, our nature as human beings is a constant challenge to the gospel, to the spread of the gospel.
Bishop, you actually touched a lot of sensitive issues as you responded to this question, but we would like to go to something else. We want to talk about the synod that was held in 2010. You were one of the resource persons. You came from Rome and you actually talked about culture. Now I want to ask you, was that synod successful? What are the fruits? Do you think you can have another synod in a few years' time?
Well, if you say the synod was held, you put it very, let me call it, without any criticism, blandly, because the synod was really celebrated. It was a celebration of our faith, and it did not just happen in one day. There were months and months of preparation that created a synodal consciousness among the people. And of course, you know the synod means moving together. It is a journey together. And the people of God were made to journey together, culminating in that week of celebration, of discussions, of prayer. If you ask me whether that synod was successful, You'll be asking me whether our prayer was fruitful. You'll be asking me whether our journey had a direction. You'll be asking me whether the discussions had content. Yes, they did. And of course, there was a type of a harvest of the synod, a harvest of the most essential elements of the celebration in form of a document. That document incidentally came out shortly before the appointment of a new bishop, and it fell into a collective amnesia. It was collectively forgotten. So we have tried to remind our people that we have a treasure here. We have a treasure that we have to discover, appreciate, understand, and digest, so that we begin to feel its consequences in our daily life. And today the Catholic Church worldwide is celebrating 50 years of the conclusion of the Second Vatican Ecumenical Council. And 50 years after, some of the documents are not even known by name by most Catholics, and even surprisingly, by most priests. 50 years after. So it would not be surprising that 5 years after the celebration of the Synod, not yet 5 years because it will be 5 in April, and 2 or 3 years, 2 years after the publication of the document of the Synod, it will not be surprising that we're not even yet aware of the immense wealth that we have in that Synod. Again, even before going back to that document, we will realize that there are people's consciousness of some pastoral issues has not remained the same. There has been an increased consciousness of some pastoral issues. I'll give you 2 examples. The constant problem of how an Nsukka Catholic can celebrate the funeral of his deceased beloved one as an Nsukka man, remaining truly cultural and truly Catholic. This issue has been a recurrent problem, and since after the Synod, the awareness has become more. Another example, the question of celebrating Christian marriage while making room also for the cultural demands of marriage among our people. So these are all issues that we are constantly becoming aware of, and proposals of pastoral solutions have been made during the Synod. Many people are not even aware of those proposals. It's left to us now to make those fruits more available to the people so that they become more aware of them. Whether I have a plan of celebrating another Synod, let us first of all digest the one we have celebrated before talking of celebrating another one, or you may have pastoral indigestion.
Okay. Father Bishop, it's really a pleasure discussing with you these topics, and they are all sensitive, and I know that the diocese will really be waiting to hear your voice.